All right, so Charlamagne went on CNN. He's on Anderson Cooper's show, and they kind of get into it here a little bit over how irresponsible CNN is being with their coverage in this election. Let's watch.
Apparently Trump's is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares. Like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I think you give a damn who's elected president. And
yeah, especially if that president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about, once again, terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Yeah. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
Well, we talk about this every single...
I don't think y'all talk about this
every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist.
Well, am I wrong, Angela? Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
Look, I'm a huge fan of yours. Okay. But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black,
I've seen that. I've seen those roundtable discussions a lot. Now, that's bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
Oh, I'm not saying you. I said the network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone. I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all never had.
We have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something. But I will just speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe, and those are people I tried to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last night they were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
I don't know what you've been watching, but I don't know of any Trump supporters out there or people who like him who are tuning in to me every night to try to get to be validated in their opinions. I don't know. I don't know. I disagree.
I don't think it's about validating. What do you mean, validating the Trump?
Well, you're saying that we're not. That I guess you're saying I'm not discussing all the things he is saying and doing and pointing it out.
Here's what I think of it. Charlamagne has a point in the sense that I see this a lot, not just in mainstream media, but even in so-called left-wing media. There's a lot of concern trolling and hyper-analyzing every move by Kamala, policy move, strategic move, etc., and then pairing that with an equal amount of time discussing how bad Donald Trump is, right? And it does sort of give a misleading picture because of the way you're focusing on the things sort of equally, it does sort of leave a misleading picture that it's just a higher bar, a higher standard for Kamala. I remember when they were arguing, she hasn't even released any policies, bro. And literally, the week before, she had released a list of 6 policies that she was going to focus on. And it's she released it, you just don't know or aren't acknowledging it and aren't discussing it. And you saw the same thing with the interviews. She was giving rallies all over the place, but they were hyper-criticizing her over not doing the interviews yet with mainstream media, which is fair on the one hand, but on the other hand, again, if you pair that, if 50% of your discussion is that, and then the other 50% is whatever crazy bullshit Trump said, it does sort of give you that, the misleading impression of it's kind of equal on both sides, right? And again, I see this even among left-wing media. You see, there's this hyper-analysis of Kamala's campaign strategy and all the mistakes and the flaws and the problems, and then there's this sense that this default opinion, that Trump and the Republicans are obviously running a campaign and they're the favorites. And it's if you're going to hyper-criticize Kamala Harris's every move when she's campaigning, you also have to hyper-criticize every move the Republicans are making and every move Trump is making and how they're campaigning, right? And so it's not that I don't see anti-Trump stuff on CNN. So I think Charlamagne's wrong about that. It's that the kind of anti-Trumpism is sort of milquetoast and weak-kneed, right? So, for example, when you come to this show, what do you get? Well, I've gone through his policy record all the time. How many people in this country know that Donald Trump, when he was president, signed a bill that completely gutted internet privacy rights? It was a bill that became a law now, which is so unpopular it had 6% support when it was passed. Trump tried to do a healthcare bill, which they called Trump Care. The actual name was like the American Health Care Act, I think, but it was deemed Trump Care. And that bill had 8% support in the country, and he tried to get it passed. It would have destroyed protections for pre-existing conditions. Again, how many people know these things? How many people know that 83% of the benefits of Trump's tax cut bill went to the top 1% in corporations? How many people know that Trump picked a predatory payday lender to be the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau? How many people know that Trump deregulated deli meat, which killed 9 people and hospitalized 57? How many people know that Trump deregulated chemicals and got rid of a lot of clean water and clean air rules? How many people know he outsourced 200,000 jobs? How many people know that, we didn't get any minimum wage increase under him? Like, if you're going to be serious about policy and you're going to be serious about covering politics, you have to get into the weeds of policy. And you don't get that. You get, whatever the tweet of the day is, they'll talk about, right? But it doesn't go beyond that. It doesn't go to serious policy analysis and real points about what he's done. Like, for the life of me, it drives me crazy. I will never understand how people other than me have not been ruthlessly refuting this idea that the Republicans run with all the time, that Donald Trump is anti-war. How many times have you heard MAGA say, I support Trump because he's anti-war? RFK has said that. He's not remotely anti-war. We've gone through the list 1,000 times. You guys can recite it back to me because you watch this show, but people who watch CNN can't tell you Trump increased drone strikes over 400%. They can't tell you that there was a 330% increase in civilian deaths in Afghanistan under him. They can't tell you he bombed Syria twice and bombed Somalia. They can't tell you that he said we're occupying a third of Syria to, quote, take the oil. They can't tell you that he killed Qasem Soleimani, a top Iranian general who was in the field fighting ISIS. They can't tell you he tried to coup Venezuela. They can't tell you he ripped up the Iran agreement. So that's my frustration. It's not exactly the same as Charlemagne's that, you guys don't talk about Trump like he's a fascist, right? That's not really my criticism. My criticism is the way that they go after Trump is sort of weak-kneed and impotent and not going to land as well, right? And also, paired with that, you have hyper-criticism of every move Kamala makes. And it sort of leads a misleading impression with people that, well, it's sort of a 50-50 thing, right? And it drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy. So, but you can tell he's pissed. You can tell Charlamagne has been thinking about this, and he's pissed about it, and he actually wants to call out CNN and let them know, like, he doesn't think that they're treating Trump as what he really is, right? Like, oh, yeah, he's just another Republican candidate. And Charlemagne's point is, like, he's really not. He's really not. He's a fascist. He's an authoritarian. His own top conservative Republican administration officials have now come out and said he's a fascist and an authoritarian. So it's almost like, if that's the case, you have to be better with how you cover him. And it's got to be the correct percentage of the discussion on the show, as opposed to we'll spend half the time talking about Kamala and hyper-criticizing her strategy, and half the time talking about Trump and sort of impotently attacking him, which is the outrage of the day. All right, there you go, guys. That's the show. That is the show. Love you all very much. You know the drill. Everybody please click like, click subscribe, all that fun stuff. The election's coming up soon, man. It's coming up fast. So we will be here giving you the news moving forward all the time. And I'm sure there's going to be even more insane stories as we get closer and closer to the election. But thanks to everybody who supports this show on Patreon. You guys know the drill. You can support below. I love y'all, and I will see you tomorrow. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.